pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Let the record show that all members of the City Council are present, with the exception of Councilman Fairbanks. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the meeting room on the west wall and is accessible to the public at any time during the course of this meeting. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. First item on the agenda is approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Item D, approval of minutes of regular meeting on June 4th, 2018 as on file in the City Clerk's office. Item E, approval of Treasurer's report of claims in the amount of $487,528.05. Item F, approval of Boswell report of claims in the amount of $57,111.41. Item G, approval of write-off of ambulance bad debts. Item H, approval of special designated license application of D&J Enterprises, LLC, doing business as Cabo Bar, for a beer garden for charity on July 14th, 2018 from 2 p.m. until 2 a.m. at 115 South 5th Street, and permission to use city-owned alley for said beer garden. Item I, approval of manager application for Denise L. Paul, license number C122009, in connection with Tall Tree Tastings, LLC, 122 North 5th Street, Beatrice, Nebraska. Item J, resolution number 6230, executing the agreement between the City of Beatrice and Struve Enterprises, Inc., regarding repairs and improvements to the alley located on the west side of Townhouse Apartments near the intersection of 6th and Logan Street. Item K, resolution number 6231, entering into an interlocal cooperation act agreement between the City of Beatrice, the County of Gage, and Gage Area Growth Enterprises, also known as Engage, to provide funding to Engage as authorized by Nebraska Revised Statute 13-315. Item L, resolution number 6232, executing amendment number 2 to the power purchase agreement with Cottonwood Wind Project, LLC, as recommended by the Board of Public Works. And item M, resolution number 6233, executing the termination of confirmation letter number 2, confirmation letter number 3, and confirmation letter number 4 with the City of Lincoln, Nebraska, doing business as Lincoln Electric System, regarding the sale and purchase of electric capacity as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Is there any item any member of the council wants removed from the consent agenda? Dwight?
H, please.
Was that H?
Anyone else? Anyone from the audience? Mr. Catlin?
Mayor, I would move that all the items listed under the consent agenda, except item H, be approved, accepted, and are ratified as presented.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Billsbach, that the items under the consent agenda be approved with the exception of item H. Your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Mr. Catlin, item H.
Mayor, I would move that item H, the approval of special designated license application of D&J Enterprises, LLC, doing business as Cabo Bar for a beer garden for charity on July 14, 2018, from 2 p.m. until 2 a.m. at 115 South 5th Street, and permission to use the city-owned alley for said beer garden be accepted, approved, or ratified as presented.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Billsbach, that the special designated license for D&J Enterprises be approved. Mr. Party?
Just want to vote no.
Beg your pardon?
Just wanted to vote no on this.
Okay.
Tell you why if you want time, but
Same reasons as,
city property liability.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion from the audience?
Mr. Party, you know, the one way we could address this is by having those parties sign insurance policies that have us as an additional insured. If you wish to explore that opportunity, let us know, and we can.
Do we do that?
No.
Or another way to solve it would be to have them to purchase a place big enough to have their parties in.
Both of them are options, so.
Okay, thank you.
You do have to give Mr. Councilman Party credit that he does stand by
He's
what he believes
consistent.
is
Consistency.
the right
Give him credit too for being
right thing
correct.
to do.
And your vote, please, gentlemen. That is approved 5-2 with Councilmans Kerr and Party voting no.
He's bringing a wave up, adding somebody every time.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. Public hearing to amend Table 4-2 relating to the permissibility of restaurant drive-through restaurants in the limited commercial district and warehousing in the general commercial district, to amend Section 222 relating to definitions, to amend Section 707 relating to swimming pools, to add Section 708 relating to storage containers, to amend Section 703B relating to exceptions to the openness of required yards, to amend Section 706C relating to residential fences, to add Section 709 relating to appeals, and to amend Section 302A for the subdivision ordinance of the City of Beatrice, Ordinance Number 98-6, relating to administrative subdivisions.
Abby, you taking this one?
Yep, I sure can. So there's several changes here to the zoning book that we're considering. That first one there, listed there, is changes to Table 4.2. And there's only two small changes to that table. The first one is for the permissibility of drive-through restaurants in limited commercial zones. That's kind of a forward-looking thing. The old Storecraft area that's being redeveloped is likely going to be zoned limited commercial, and they anticipate having one or more drive-throughs, so this will allow that. The other change would be the permissibility of warehousing in general commercial zones, which is something that's done currently in several properties in general commercial zones. This just changes the table to reflect that that is allowed with a special use permit. Planning and zoning did review this earlier tonight, and they recommended approval as being in compliance with the general plan for the city. If nobody has any questions on that one, I can go on to the next one.
Any
I had
comments?
a question on the drive-through windows. Are we going to limit how many access points there are along that stretch?
Along the highway?
Yes,
That'll be determined by the Department of Transportation.
it will be.
They are doing a traffic study to determine how many and where at those locations can be, but we'll have to work in concert with the Department of Transportation on that issue.
Thank you.
Any questions regarding that change from the public? All right, Abigail?
All right, the next one is regarding swimming pools, which our current zoning code just doesn't address swimming pools, spas, hot tubs. This proposed amendment to the code would restrict swimming pools to residential districts or properties with an existing non-conforming residential use, and the location for pools. And we're just talking pools that are deeper than 2 feet, not baby pools or anything like that. But they would be restricted to the same extent as accessory buildings, so you wouldn't be allowed to have one permanently in your front yard or your street side yard. It would have to go in the backyard, and it would have to meet the same setback requirements as an accessory building. Planning and zoning also reviewed this tonight, and they recommended approval for this one as well.
Rich?
This reads, they would not be allowed in the front or side yards. But they can be put on the side yard as long as they meet
They
the
can't-
setback restrictions.
Correct. They can't
This
be
is
in the
not
front.
what that says. It says it will not be allowed on side yards or front streets, and would have to meet the setback requirements when placed in the back or interior side yards.
Yeah,
It's confusing.
the street side yard is the concern. It's, I mean,
Is
with,
that on a corner lot?
yep. Just like
What
we-
about on a non-corner lot?
Corner lot doesn't have, a non-corner lot does not have a street side yard. It's just, I mean, we wouldn't allow a garage to be built right on the property line in a street side yard. It's the same concept with a above ground pool.
I don't know, I just got confused on that when I read it.
That answer your question, Rich?
Yeah, Because most people that gave me calls on this were they were concerned about the baby pools. And anything under, those little 2-ring blow-up deals, I said, you can put them anywhere you want. But
Correct.
the above-ground pools, I agree that, but as long as they can meet the setbacks and not on the property line, they can put it in the side yards. So do we need to possibly put something up that when put them up, they need to go check with the inspections departments to make sure where they can put them? Do we need to get that out to the public somehow?
We certainly can notify and educate people, yes.
Because I guarantee you, I put one of those things up years ago, and they're not easy to put up and take down. So if they put them in the wrong place, they're gonna have to empty them and take them down, and that's really gonna get some people upset.
You have to remember also, some of those may require building permits, there may be some fence requirements, and so certainly we can work to educate the public as to come in and make sure they do it right the first time, and we don't have to go back and have those issues.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council regarding the pools? Anything from the audience? All right, let's go to the next one.
All right, the next one is about exceptions to the openness of required yards and residential fences. The change with the openness of the required yards is really minor. It's concerning kind of what Rich was just talking about, the difference between a street side yard and the interior side yard. So this just clarifies that there's currently an exception in there that an accessory building, a shed, a garage, as long as it's 60 feet back from the front property line, it's allowed to be built within 5 feet of the side property line. However, in practice, we don't allow the construction of garages or sheds that close to the street side property line, just because it typically is going to present an issue with the sight triangle for alley traffic. So all we're doing is adding one word in here to clarify that you can be within 5 feet of the interior side lot line.
Rich?
Could you add something in there about the way the fence faces? Whether the good side is to the neighbor or the good side is to you. It is not explained anywhere we've got. We were always told for years that the good side had to be facing the neighbor. I was told here a while back that that is not correct. Can we put it somewhere in here to where we can go, this is what they want it done? Good side to the neighbor, or good side, or whatever, because you never know what the answer is.
Yeah, we certainly can add that.
What do you got on there now?
You're correct, right now it's silent, it doesn't
Yeah,
say one
so
way or
we
the other.
need to make that, because like I said, we were told years that it had to face the neighbor, and I've had a few fights over that over the years.
We will make note and work on bringing that one forward to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council on fences?
Oh,
Public?
That was just the
Uh,
sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to-
No, you go
You want me
ahead.
to go for the fence part? Okay, the
You're doing a
fence.
good job.
The fence exception is, this is also for street side yards, corner lots. It would allow fences in a corner lot's required street side yard to be 6 foot tall and over 50% closed, a privacy fence, as long as it doesn't extend further out towards the street than the front of existing houses that face that same street. This actually comes up quite a bit from what I'm told, that owners of corner lots, anytime they want to put up a privacy fence, they have a lot of trouble doing that, because living on a corner lot, there's obviously the right-of-way area of your lot that the city already owns, and on a corner lot, the setbacks for building a privacy fence on the street side yard are the same as those for the front yard, which is typically 25 to 30 feet. So for people who own corner lots, however far the right-of-way comes into their yard, they've got to go another 25 feet farther than that before they can build their privacy fence, and it ends up being at times several thousand square feet of their lot that they can't fence in, which just seems like a lot of property to be paying for, not being able to be utilized. And we actually, when we went to look at this, we kind of kept our eyes peeled around town and realized that there's several fences around town now that don't comply with the current code in this exact way. So we included some pictures of some of those in you guys' packet. because the existing ones that are around don't, as far as we can tell, don't pose any problems. We don't get a lot of complaints that they look terrible or anything, or, block sight. So this would just allow property owners on corner lots to have privacy fences around more of their lot than what they are currently allowed.
Questions? From the audience? Abigail, you want to continue?
Yes. Okay. Oh, that one also, planning and zoning also recommended approval of that one, by the way.
Thanks.
The next one is the subdivision ordinance. This is it's a pretty minor change. As of right now, the requirements in order to be eligible to do an administrative subdivision, the lots resulting after the subdivision have to comply to all current zoning code, including the minimum area for a lot, which obviously the intention there is because you don't want to create lots that don't conform, but in the case of lots that already don't conform, that are already too small, that it prohibits them from doing any sort of subdivision. We had an instance where property owners that both of their lots are already much smaller than the minimum requirements, but they one neighbor wanted to sell the other neighbor 2 feet of their lots so that the other neighbor could build just a small single-car garage and still meet the setback requirements. And under current code, we can't approve that because after the subdivision, the lots will still be too small. So this just makes a change so that upon approval from the necessary officials, lots that already don't meet minimum area requirements can still do something like that.
You look confused.
Everybody sleep?
Well, as a matter of fact, 2 times we're actually helping the public out here. I like that.
Any comments from the council? Anyone from the audience? Abby?
All right. This next one is about the storage containers. We're not going to take any action on this tonight. We're going to still hold the hearing to get input and feedback, but it will not be voted on or introduced until we can kind of finalize revisions based on everybody's feedback and input that we get. We had it drafted up once and got concerns were raised from the community, and we spoke to a few people about it to see what everyone thought, and we made some changes based on the feedback that we got. Basically, the issue was the building inspections department gets complaints somewhat routinely about storage containers, especially those located on residential lots, and residential lots that are vacant, that someone across town owns a lot and just fills it with storage containers. The neighbors don't appreciate that, so we were tasked with coming up with something for this. And the way that it is revised now, which I don't know if anyone grabbed one, but I think Aaron made copies available of the revised version up there, is that districts zoned ag, general commercial, light industrial, or general industrial, storage containers would be allowed, but they must meet the same setback requirements as accessory structures. And they are only permitted on premises that have a primary structure. You can't put them on a vacant ground. Except the only exception there is that in general commercial, a maximum of 2 storage containers is allowed. And general commercial is generally the area along the highways is mostly zoned general commercial. And then for other zoning districts, like the residential districts, CBD, storage containers would not be allowed except for the temporary placement for the limited purpose of temporary storage to accommodate a move, a remodeling or construction project, or a cleanup of a casualty loss. In a case that you've got a storage container there for one of those purposes, it would be allowed for 60 calendar days, and then upon request, extensions could be granted by the chief building inspector. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to place one in a right-of-way or to where it's going to obstruct traffic or pedestrian traffic. And again, it notes that you cannot place storage containers on premises that do not have a primary structure.
All right, first questions from the council.
Why did we treat general commercial different than we did ag and everything else?
As we sat through it, I mean, first, you have to take a step back. When originally these things started showing up, there was nothing in our book of how to really to address these. And so that's when we went down the accessory building route, accessory structure route. When we started looking at how to address these things moving forward, the thought process was, again, general commercials is generally along the highway. If it's a aesthetics issue, you may not want them along the highway. That was the idea of limiting the number of them along the highway, still allowing them, but not having as many.
What's the difference between one of these storage units on general commercial and a storage unit that people rent and put stuff in, like buildings like, well, the ones over there on West Court? They're a storage building, same as these are.
The difference comes in with the rules that you have. And again, that's what's a policy issue, and wherever you guys decide to direct us, that's where we'll go with drafting this. And so the storage units that are permanent have to have the concrete barrier or apron around them, have to be, meet all the building codes, those kind of things. These other items, if they're not accessory structures, they're not required to have if they're not accessory structures, then they can just be simply placed on the ground. They're not attached to anything. They're not, there's no footings, there's nothing like that.
Anyone else?
Rick? What about the number of storage? You didn't mention number.
That was actually.
Other than non-residential.
Yeah, that was a concern that was raised, because at first, when we first drafted this thing, we had put in there that we were gonna consider storage containers to be accessory structures, just because, like Tobias said, there's nothing in the zoning book even mentioning them right now. So up until now, that was the closest thing that we had in our zoning book, was to say that they were accessory structures. But in that case, they would be limited to 2 accessory structures per property, which the concern was raised that that's not realistic for some industrial properties. They need more than 2, especially if they sell them, rent them. So as it reads today, there would be a maximum of 2 in general commercial, and then for the other districts, it's silent. So how many you need?
Well, I can see putting 2 in the residential, but when it comes to general commercial, some of these folks have their buildings, their businesses, they need extra storage place. And as long as they meet the setbacks, I don't see why we have to put a number on them. It's a general commercial. It's
What was your comment?
realized as a business.
What was your comment about residential?
Accessory buildings on residentials is 2, correct?
Correct.
I can see that. But on general commercial, that's a business. They need extra space to store their stuff, or their warehousing material. I can't see that we should be putting a limit of 2 on there. As long as they can meet the setbacks and put them in, I think it should be however many they can do, put on there that looks, maybe it should be done on a case-by-case basis.
So you would have no limit in GC and a limit of 2 in residential. Am I hearing you correct?
Well, isn't that what we've got on our accessory buildings in residential is 2?
Right, I'm just trying to make sure I picked it up
I
correctly.
don't see, as long as they meet the setbacks, why they have to be punished for having general commercial when you can have as many as you want otherwise. The others are silent.
Anybody else from the council before we go to the audience? Phil?
I very seldom agree with Rich, but on this, I agree with him at 2 accessory and.
Lord, is it snowing?
Yeah. Yeah, where's Ted at this? So, and on general commercial, if they fit the setbacks, I don't see the problem with it. Because they're not going to be in the front of the building, they're going to probably be behind the building, so I'm okay with the.
All right, let's go to the audience. Who would like to be first? Mr. Nelson?
James Nelson, 1025 North 6th Street, Beatrice, Nebraska. I'm here with 2 hats on, one on behalf of Casper's Construction. As most of you are probably aware, their business establishment down on the south part of town, that's zoned general industrial. With the first draft that was circulated, obviously we had concerns about that. With the revised draft, that fits very well with their business. Quite frankly, they use some of these storage containers, and I'm going to use shipping containers because that's really probably what we're talking about generally. They use some of them. They rent some of them. As the city is aware, the city has rented some of theirs before, and they sell some of them. With the proposed revision, and I guess I'll just say this right now, I met last week with Tobias and with Ms. Stark. I appreciated the opportunity of that conversation and that free exchange of, we see where you're going from or going to, but let's make it work. You obviously need these storage containers in industrial areas, out at the industrial park, in general commercial areas to some extent, and in ag areas, and that's where I'll put on my second hat. I don't live in the city limits, but I'm in the zoning limits. So you govern what I can put on my acreage. And the first draft would have prohibited me from having a shipping container storing paper files. As Mr. Templemeyer is aware, I have one of those. And the first draft would have said I had to get rid of it. It's back behind with all my other junk that the neighbors can't see because of the trees. So I think with the compromise that's being floated and exchanged, I think it's a good solution. I would respectfully ask this council to continue this public hearing so that others can see that if they haven't seen this revised ordinance, they can look at it, go through it, and quite frankly, I think we'll end up with a better product that'll serve the city.
Anybody have any questions of Jim?
Are you saying, Jim, that you are in favor of the general commercial have no? Or
I
what are you saying?
visited with one business that's general commercial. That business has only one that could possibly qualify, and they had no problem with limiting it to two. I can see where you're coming from, Rich, but I can also see the other perspective of what's the whole purpose of this? The purpose is so shipping containers don't end up in residential backyards. I personally see that, and I agree with that. But don't discourage business.
Absolutely.
Don't drive business out of town. And don't tell people that just move it outside the city limits, outside the zoning. I think there's a good compromise that we can get to that objective to make this community better looking than it is. And we've made great improvements over the last 10 years. And I hesitate to say this, but even in Lincoln, you can use shipping containers in very restricted areas for residential structures. I'm not advocating that, but you know, they look kind of nice in certain areas. So, with that, I would respectfully ask that you postpone the public hearing, get more input. Let's get a good ordinance that
We want to
can all
continue
live
with the public hearing tonight. We're just postponing decision on the
But
ordinance.
But I think there should be, once we come to this second draft, and like I said, I'm not sure the public has all seen that second draft. Let the public look at that second draft
There will be another public hearing, Jim.
and bring it back.
There will, sure.
So,
All right, appreciate it.
Hi, is
Thanks.
Jim a question?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't check into it earlier. Do you rent or own this container?
I own.
And I asked you the price or the approximate price.
I will not tell you in
I'm
public.
just not sure what's compared to a shed, what the price difference, I mean, if it's way more expensive or way cheaper.
Here's why I went with that. Probably, well, for that size, for a 40-foot shipping container, it probably would have been more expensive to build a building, get the permits, put the foundation. I went with a shipping container because it is quasi-portable. I'm not going to lift it. Somebody else can bring out their big machine to lift this 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 pound thing. It's airtight and it's watertight.
I was just curious if it was 5,000 or 50,000. I mean, I didn't know
Oh,
compared
no,
to building a shop, what the difference price
No,
would be.
much cheaper than building a shop. And for my purposes, airtight, watertight, and quasi-portable.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Wayne? Wayne, you just give your name and address, please.
Wayne Bruns, 1201 Durant Street, Beatrice. I guess the only problem I got with the two in a general commercial is there is a fellow that has 4 of these, and he's had them for years. He's not along the highway. So, I guess you were saying there was nothing on the books on these till tonight?
We've been using this
Or some
accessory
other-
structures is what we've been classifying.
Okay. But
Which allows
now,
you, limits you to 2.
Is there gonna be a grandfather clause for people who've had 4 of them for 15 years, or?
I think that's a decision this council needs to make. They can
Okay.
take that action,
Yeah.
and they can say, hey, we want to grandfather them in, or they can say, we're going to give you X number of days to come into compliance with the
Yeah.
new law.
All right. I guess the other thing is, as I look through this thing, in storage containers, you have trailers, and in junk vehicles, you have trailers. So which ordinance does junk or trailers go actually under?
If you look, we actually did a little bit of changing with that too, to kind of clarify that a little bit, or we tried to anyways. It's at the very beginning of the second page, that section B there.
I don't have the new one.
Oh, you don't? Okay. We clarified it a little bit so that it said, when it goes to mention trucks, truck vans, converted mobile homes, trailers, recreational vehicles, bus bodies, vehicles, that is for vehicles that are no longer operable as intended by the manufacturer or no longer being used as intended by the manufacturer. If you've got a perfectly operable trailer,
Right.
truck trailer that has stuff stored in it,
So you took,
that's-
you took the railroad cars out of storage containers, did you?
railroad cars is still listed under
Okay.
if it's no longer operable as intended or being used as intended.
Because actually that would go under could go under junk vehicle, because those were made for transporting people or goods. So,
Right. We tried to revise this so that it just addressed things originally intended to transport people or goods, but no longer used as such.
and I guess the other thing I don't really like about this much is, where did I take it? And maybe you changed this already, I don't know. Materials stored within storage containers are subject to inspection and approval by local and state fire officials.
That clause was removed
Okay.
from the revised version.
Say,
Yeah.
well, I'm just wasting my time there.
Any questions of Wayne from anybody?
No. So where are these revised ones at?
Is there a stack of them over there? Oh,
But anyway, I guess that'd be my major concern, because this fella is in business out by the fairgrounds. And he's had 4 of these for several years. And so he doesn't really want to get rid of them, because they're already stacked in a row there and full of stuff and not really bothering nothing. So consider that anyway, I guess.
Thanks,
Right.
Wayne. And Aaron, could we get some copies done at the office tomorrow? If somebody wants to stop down and pick them up at the city offices?
Okay.
Okay.
It'll also be on our website. If you go to www.beatrice.ne.gov, I'll publish the meeting, and it is on there under the ordinance. There's a red line copy of the changes.
Okay.
But yeah, if it's easier, just stop down at the office. We'll have them sitting there, or shoot me an email or whatever else. We'll get you, make sure we get copies of
Over
everybody.
in the
Repay your electric bill.
okay. All right. Well, I guess that's all I got then.
All right, thanks, Wayne. Anybody else? Now's your chance. Give us your input. All right, Mr. Catlin, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mayor, I'd move that the public hearing be closed at 7:34 PM.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, that the public hearing be closed at 7:34 PM. Your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Next item on the agenda is a resolution number 6234, executing the letter of agreement, amendment number 1, to add additional services including construction administration, construction observation, material testing, project closeout, and record drawings for additional compensation to the letter of agreement for professional services dated December 14th, 2016, between the City of Beatrice, Nebraska, and Olson and Associates, Inc., as recommended by the Board of Public Works.
Mayor, I would move that resolution number 6234 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that resolution number 6234 be passed and adopted. Further discussion?
This is just part of the project at Ridgeview Drive. There were some additional fees incurred by Olson Associates as part of their inspections and testing of that project. So that's what you see before you in amendment number 1.
Not very courteous.
Okay. Comments? Questions? If not, I'd ask for your vote. And that's approved 7-0. Resolution number 6234 has been passed and adopted. Next is resolution number 6235, extending the general release to release the discharge of Homestead Auto Glass LLC and Paul and Amber Pond regarding Community Development Block Grant Loan Agreement.
Mayor, I would move that resolution number 6235 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Motion by Catlin, seconded by Kerr, that resolution number 6235 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
The Ponds and Homestead Auto Glass have paid off their CBG loan in full. They made their last payment here this month, and so we are simply asking you to release any and all collateral that we had as a result of that loan agreement.
Comments? Questions from the audience? And your vote, please, gentlemen. That is approved 7-0. Resolution number 6235 has been approved. Next is resolution number 6236, executing the loan extension agreement and promissory note between the City of Beatrice and Birchwood Estates Retirement Village LLC for an extension of a direct loan in the amount of $35,000 under the City of Beatrice LB 840 Fund for Economic Development and to execute all other necessary documents.
Mayor, I would move the resolution number 6236 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Morgan. That resolution number 6236 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
Back in 2015, this council entered into a LB 840 loan agreement with New Nebraska RC LLC at the time. It's transferred over to Birchwood Estates LLC, or excuse me, Birchwood Estates Retirement Village LLC, to get the full name there. In that original loan agreement, there was a period of time for some studies to be done. There was a period of time for pre-construction work. There was a period of time for construction work. We're running up to that construction period of when it was supposed to start. And Brian Millage, one of the individuals involved in this endeavor, has simply asked for a 6-month extension on that construction period before that begins. And so what you have before you is the documents necessary to grant a 6-month extension, be the first one they've asked for. Again, all the other terms remain the same, so that if construction does not occur in that time period, then there's a repayment that comes in at that point.
So what happens after 6 months?
After 6 months, there's an agreement then that if nothing happens at that point, then I believe the repayment period starts. There's a period of time that they have to repay. I don't remember off the top of my head if it's so many years, but they owe back half the money that they borrowed.
Half.
I believe it's half.
That's correct. Any other questions from the council? Anyone from the public?
And Rick, those were all set forth in the original loan agreement from 2015, so.
This has been a long time.
We're not changing anything in this agreement, is what I want to tell you, so.
All right, your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Resolution number 6236 has been passed and adopted. Next item is an ordinance amending Table 4-2 of the zoning ordinance of the City of Beatrice, ordinance number 9413, relating to the permissibility of restaurant drive-throughs in limited commercial districts and warehousing in general commercial districts.
Mayor, I would move the said ordinance be given number 18-012. The title therefore be approved. The rules be suspended. The said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Billsbach, that the ordinance be given number 18-012, the title thereof approved, rules suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Resolution number 18-012 by number the first time. Ordinance number 18-012 by number the second time, and ordinance number 18-012 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I would move this ordinance number 18-012 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 18-012 be passed and approved. Tobias?
This is the same thing we went over with regards to swimming pools during the public hearing. Or excuse me, it's with regards to limited commercial districts and the warehousing and the drive-throughs. If you guys have any additional questions, I think Abby stated that planning and zoning recommended approval.
Questions? Public? Vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-012 has been passed and adopted. Next is ordinance amending Section 222 and Section 707 of the zoning ordinance of the City of Beatrice, ordinance number 94-13, relating to definitions and swimming pools.
Mayor, I move the said ordinance be given number 18-013. The title therefore be approved. The rules be suspended. Said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Billsbach, that the ordinance be given number 18-013. The title thereof approved, rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. Again, a motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. And your vote, please, and that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-013 by number the first time, ordinance number 18-013 by number the second time, and ordinance number 18-013 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I would move that ordinance number 18-013 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, that ordinance number 18-013 be passed and adopted. Anything between Tobias and Abby?
Oh, this was the one regarding swimming pools, saying that they be in residential districts only, have to be in backyards or interior side yards.
Questions from the council, from the audience? And your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-013 has been passed and adopted. Next is ordinance amending section 222.
This is the one we're going to withdraw.
Yes.
Beg your
With
pardon.
regards to storage containers, we're going to withdraw it from tonight's agenda, have no action.
Do we need a motion to do that?
Nope,
Okay.
simply just skip over it. We'll go on to the next one.
Okay.
B.
We'll go to the D. They'll introduce it.
D. Next is an ordinance amending section 703B and 706C and adding section 709 of the zoning ordinance of the City of Beatrice, ordinance number 94-13, relating to exceptions to the openness of required yards, residential fences, and appeals.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 18-015. The title therefore be approved. The rules be suspended and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Billsbach, that the ordinance be given number 18-015, title thereof approved, rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. Motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-015 by number the first time. Ordinance number 18-015 by number the second time, and ordinance number 18-015 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I would move that ordinance number 18-015 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook. That ordinance number 18-015 be passed and approved. Any further discussion regarding Rich?
Just one thing, I'd like to have you guys bring forward something on the face of the fence. Thank you, Abby.
So
Dwight?
some of these pictures we saw earlier on here, do we go back and enforce anything on that? Or just allow them to build where they want to up until a certain point?
If this ordinance passes, then those photos that you saw, those are okay. If the ordinance were to not pass,
So if you build it fast, it's all right.
we're not entirely, we didn't do enough research to figure out when each and every one of those fences went up. There, like we said, there was a lot more than we expected to find.
It just gives a little bit of leeway to those that are already there and those that are going to be built.
Actually,
Those
we're
that were never
benefiting the
permitted.
public. Let's let this one go.
Any other comments from the public? And your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-015 has been passed and approved. Next is the ordinance amending Section 302A of the subdivision ordinance of the City of Beatrice, ordinance number 98-6, relating to administrative subdivisions.
Mayor, I would move the said ordinance be given number 18-016. The title therefore be approved. The rules be suspended and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, that the ordinance be given number 18-016, the title thereof approved, rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-016 by number the first time. Ordinance number 18-016 by number the second time, and ordinance number 18-016 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I would move that ordinance number 18-016 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 18-016 be passed and approved. Further discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, sir?
just, Abby, could you one more time run this past and for some clarification on the, a little bit confusing here. If my neighbor's house burns down, they tear it down, and he's got a lot and a half, let's say, and you, okay, if his, back up, maybe just one lot, but if it's the dimensions, okay, of the regular lot, and I want to buy that lot, I want to bring it into with my property. Basically, what does this do? If that lot that I'm purchasing meets all the requirements, and you said it has to meet, then it comes under the rules of what's on the property that's already there.
If the lot that you're purchasing already meets the minimum area requirements for a lot in that zoning district, then you would already be, under the rules as they are today, you would already be able to do that.
Okay.
The only thing this does is say, if you want to buy this little chunk of land that your neighbor has, and after you do that, either you or his lot will be less than the minimum
Okay.
size. If it already was to begin with, you can do that.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the council? Public? All right, gentlemen, your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-016 has been adopted. Final ordinance is ordinance number 18-009, adding sections 17-35, 17-36, 17-37, and 17-38 to the Beatrice City Code regarding disorderly houses.
Mayor, I would move that ordinance number 18-009 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Claybaugh, that ordinance number 18-009 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
As you guys remember, we brought this back on May 21st, and we had discussion. The Landlord Association was here. After that meeting, Abby and I had a chance to sit down and talk to a couple of their board members, hear their concerns. And what you'll see in your packet on page 132 is we added section D, subsection D to section 17-38, which basically says that if the police department issues a citation for disorderly house, that we will provide notice to the landlord. That way they are informed and know what's going on in the property if such a citation is issued. After that change, we were advised by the Landlord Association that they were comfortable with that modification. So that's why we brought this back to you.
And they're comfortable with A, B, and C?
Yes, I mean, there was They were fine, didn't bring those up, didn't have any problems with those. They just wanted some notification, just so they knew what was going on their property, so.
So what kind
Right.
of notification is it? A phone call or is it a certified letter?
The statute just says that we'll give them notice. I think it depends on probably how they reach, how we're able to obtain.
How do you want to do it, chief?
Okay. And you have a record of rather than just saying, I said, you said, or something.
Right.
Thank you.
Rich?
Again, we need to educate the populace. I've got phone calls. Well, what about my pool party I have that I shut down? This does not pertain to that. We need to educate them what this pertains to.
As long as it's not loud and
Well,
there's
yeah,
complaints.
but I mean,
those
if
at
it's
least
just
have to
a
be
regular
called.
backyard barbecue and they've got their music playing until 10 o'clock, I'm sure the chief's not gonna go up there and stamp down on them, but I've had a number of calls wondering about that. And I said, no, this is the kids that's 2 o'clock in the morning driving through your front yard. If I'm correct on that, aren't I, chief? Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? All right, your vote, please. Oh, sure, I'm sorry. Come on up. You want to state your name and address, please?
Larry Wolkin, 1301 Elk. How many notices do us landlords get told on if they're a nuisance house or a rental property?
The way it's written is that you would receive notice once a citation was issued for disorderly house.
Just one time?
The first time a citation is issued, you would receive notice that citation was issued.
Doesn't mean the citation would be issued the first time.
Yeah, but
it could be.
What about if you gave them a couple citations? When are you coming back on the landlord now?
Honestly, the way this reads, you can come back at any time. I don't believe that's the police department's intention. Obviously, there's discretion with every one of these that you write into law. I think it becomes a habitual problem is when you would see them contacting a landlord to look for some additional solutions.
I agree with that, but, if the police department can't control it, how can us landlords control them? I don't have the problem, but I'm just speaking for a lot of landlords in general, How can we be liable what other people are doing if they're just being loud or whatever, or domestic? This includes domestic call-ins too?
No.
Because under housing authority, we can't evict anybody because
Yeah, this is not intended for repeat domestic calls. It's not something we want to discourage.
it's just
Loud
Being-
parties,
loud
excessive
parties.
noise. If the police department have not been able to get their attention through contacts, through maybe disturbing the peace charge, disorderly conduct, if we have to continue to ratchet up the citations, eventually disorderly house would be used, at which point you would be notified that we're having some issues with your tenants. You may very well be aware at that point that we are having those issues.
are you just letting us know, or are you going to write us a ticket down the road then too?
Again, this does give us the authority to write you the citation, but like anything else, there's discretion. I believe as long as you are working with us, we will work with you, try to resolve those issues.
All right, like I said, I don't have no problem, but you never know. It can show up anytime. 'Cause
Right.
Most of the time, Larry, we're trying to get it, if these kids shouldn't say kids, people are tearing your house up and stuff, having these parties, you're gonna wanna know about it.
Oh, yeah.
Cops are gonna say,
I've never been-
Larry, those kids are tearing up your
Never
house.
have been notified before.
Go down there and try to set on them or lean on them a little bit.
Oh, I would. So,
Yeah. And
especially if I got a
actually,
call
it's
2
there
in
to
the morning
protect
waking me
you
up.
too.
saying that they're party.
It's there to protect you too.
All right, Larry, thanks. Anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-009 has been passed and adopted. Next item on the agenda is the public forum. Purpose of the public forum is a presentation by the general public of an item that the city council can take under consideration at a later date. No discussion or action will be taken by the city council at this time. Does anybody from the council have anything for the public forum? Does the audience have anything for the public forum? Okay, we'll move into discussions and reports, and the first up is the Engage Quarterly Report. Walker? Just your
Thought
name
everyone
and
came
address,
here to
if you
see
would.
me.
What's that? Just name and address, if you would, please, just for the
Walker
record.
Zalkowski, 831 Ashley Avenue, Cortland, Nebraska. Is that enough?
Perfect.
So this is a little bit shorter time since the last time I gave a report. We were a little bit late in Q1, and now we're trying to get back on schedule, so we're actually a little bit early for Q2. So you probably saw from the report all the things that we've been working on. It's been a pretty nuts Q2 so far. So I'm going to go back to just kind of the summary at the end. We've been traveling all over. Aaron was at the Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities conference in Hastings. We tried actually to get that conference here for this year, but we were unsuccessful. We're actually reapplying to try to get that conference to come here next year. But it was a really good conference for her. We've actually had a couple things already come of that. One being kind of a cool study. We might actually get done with some architecture students at UNL. So we're on the road trying to make the best use of our time. You can kind of see there from travel. I'm trying to get through this quickly because you guys have had a lot of testimonials and things tonight. So one of the things that we're pretty excited about that we have going for the summer, we have 2 interns, both just graduated from high school. We want to keep them busy. We want them to get something useful out of working for us, but we want to get, I guess make it both ways. Like we want them to get something out of it. We want to get something out of it. So in addition to all their normal job duties, we have them filing and scanning and doing whatever we need to do. We have them both working on semester or summer-long projects, putting them to school early, but having them write papers. Both of our interns have very different career paths, one being finance, one being education. And they're both very bright individuals. And we say, well, how are we going to recruit these kids back when they're done with school? Because they both have at least 4 years of schooling. One's going to go to SEC for 2 years and then transfer to UNL. One's going to go right to Westland. And we say, well, what do we have as a community to get these people back? So their summer is going to be saying, what exactly do I want in a position? What do I want in a job? What do I want in a career? What am I looking for when I graduate? So that when they get done and they want to graduate and they're looking for a job, it's not them applying for a job, it's them deciding because they already know what they want to do. So one, we're hoping to kind of get their mindset of them setting their terms of what they want to do when they grow up, but then also for us to say, what are we going to have in 5 years? Are we doing the things now to recruit these kids back in 5 years? And so we're putting them to talk with their peers, talk with some of their mentors, and say, what can I be working on, and then how's this community going to be working on those things so that we want to come home? So we're excited about those kids and getting some stuff out of them from the summer, and then also them getting some stuff out of us. So. A lot of what's in my summary right now, I can't go into too much detail, but we're working a lot of projects, a lot of promising projects. So hopefully in Q3 we'll have some good news, preferably, but we'll probably have some more news in Q3. We're still pushing on the hotel studies. We did a study and there was demand, so we're still talking with some developers. We're kind of gearing back up for some of these projects. We've noticed we don't have. We're trying to give the best proposals, I guess we can. So we had some more aerial footage shot of some of our industrial sites that we're pitching, just trying to get the best views and just when 30 other communities put a proposal in front of a company, how are we rising to the top? Because we can't be there pitching it the whole time, and the state, has to say here's 30 proposals. So we're doing everything we can to stay on top of our proposal game. But in terms of, I guess, Q2, the first home sold and for Excel Development, that was a huge investment by a lot of different folks. There's a lot of players in that game. So for the first house to have a for sale sign is pretty exciting. We know that we're on the right path with that. And I'm sure you guys have all driven by there, but the old hospital site is just full of houses right now. And that was all based on a study and a bus tour that we did and a deal that was started to come together after a bus tour, and things are working. So SCC also are pretty intimately involved in this SCC thing of helping choose who was going to build those new residence and dining halls. So we broke ground on that the other day as well. And we're looking toward the future. So we have in the fall, we are, I and someone from the Lincoln Area Development Partnership are going to do a targeted recruitment trip to Canada, because we were starting to see some I don't know, I think we're starting to see some interest out of Canada, and we put it on our focus at the beginning of the year. So we're going to go up there and do an actual week of meeting with clients that we think meet our workforce, our existing employers, and try to make some more clusters, I guess, of what we have going on. So, and then also some just more planning stuff. We're going to use one of our board meeting days here in August, and rather than meet like we typically do as a board, we're going to do a retreat and say, how can we plan for next year? Try to set our plan for 2019, and then looking forward into 2019, we're going to do a more of a 1 or 2 day retreat with board and say, okay, let's start to plan for, is it 1 to 3 years? Is it 3 to 5 years? And starting to look a little bit more down the road. So I just think it's been a while since we've really looked deeply at our strategic planning. We're kind of running around chasing anything that comes to us. So trying to maybe just lay it out there a little bit more. Any other
Anybody have any
questions
questions
on
for Walker?
what we have going on? Anything I missed on there?
Been a busy office, there's no doubt about it.
It's fun.
Do you want to introduce Aaron, some of the city?
I would like to do standard error. I did not say this, but thank you for re-agreeing to our contract for the next 3 years. Appreciate that. And Phil, I haven't even looked at you. You're clear over there by yourself. But Aaron, do you want to come up here? So Aaron Chadwick joined Engage in the fall of 2017, and she's here now. So feel free to pepper her with questions. She's running for school board, by the way.
I think these two make a really good team and representing not only the city of Beatrice, but Gage County, and represent our investment extremely well. And they meet with prospective employers very well, and also works with those that are already here in Beatrice. So I think they have a good team with the interns that they have. They're getting a lot of work done. So really appreciate the work you guys are doing. Aaron, do you have anything to say?
I don't know.
And in addition to Aaron, I guess I should have mentioned this, but so we still have Phil Michael somewhat on contract with us, and Phil was a business recruiter for the state of Nebraska for a long time. And when he retired, we said, hey, how about you just represent us, because he's got really deep relationships. So we still have him going to shows, and we cover his expenses just as though one of us would be at the show, but he literally knows everyone at these different conferences and has really deep relationships with some manufacturers from all over the United States and into Canada and some in Mexico. So in terms of staying on the radar with him in the state, he's traveling there representing us too. So we try to man our team as much as we can by trying to keep the costs down, and it's working so far.
Okay. Any questions of Walker or Aaron? All right. Thank you very much for your report.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right. Next is the city administrator's report. Tobias?
Couple of highlights in there. Our mill and overlay project is supposed to start the week after the 4th of July weekend. 4th of July falls, I think, on Wednesday this year, and so that following Monday is when we'll see the crew roll into town. You'll see them come in and do the concrete work first, curb and gutters, handicap ramps, those types of things, ADA ramps. As they get done with those, then they'll come back in with the actual milling and overlay portion of that project. But the sanitary sewer for Porter Addition, which was mentioned earlier tonight, which is the old hospital site, our contractor there has moved that start date up, and they're going to be starting that again the week after the 4th of July, so July 9th. Excel was very excited to see that project get done faster than anticipated. We've had a construction meeting with them already, with the contractor, with Porter Addition, and with our own staff to make sure that everybody knows who has to do what on that project. There's some concrete that's been removed. That's Porter, they're taking care of that. There's some power poles that we have to secure. That's obviously on our part, and so all three of us are working very well together to get that project done. The other thing I'll note is, if you haven't noticed, Scott Street and Hannibal Park have been very busy the last several weekends with a number of tournaments. Not only the volunteers have been out there, but Mark Pitha and his crew have done a wonderful job keeping the facilities up and functioning very well during this time period. We've received a lot of compliments on those facilities this last weekend. We had a state tournament. We had so many teams in town, we had to move some softball girls that normally play at Hannibal over to Scott Street. And the comments we got was they loved going over there. They thought it was a nice facility, being able to go over there and play. And it's been wonderful to see both organizations be able to work well with each other, both the Bullets and the Girls Association. As tournaments based upon the size, we've moved teams back and forth between the two facilities, and you haven't had the old turf wars or some of those things in the past. So it's very nice to see everybody working together, to see those events become to the community and benefit our town. So other than that, they poured some concrete out there for the project, the shelter out there. So that was the first portion that was poured. They'll pour some more tomorrow morning, and then they'll work on the playground in the next couple of weeks, and slowly but surely continue to make those improvements at Hannibal Park that are part of that land water conservation grant that we have.
Chief Standing Bear Trail in town.
Chief Standing Bear Trail, it's, I think the correct term is 99% drafted and completed and designed. James is working to put the last finishing touches on it to get it out for bid. Hopefully go out for bid this week, latest next week. But I think he's anticipating getting it out in the street here very quickly. He's still pushing for a construction date yet this year, so.
Okay.
Mr. Kerr?
When can I get a toilet bathroom built down there on the east side of Center Street to them other two ball diamonds, so those kids don't have to walk across Center Street?
Scott Street Ball Fields, you want one on the north side?
No, I want one on the east side
The
of
east
Center
side?
Street, where those two ball diamonds are on the, east side of Center Street. Those kids are having to cross Center Street. We
There's
have
only
some-
one field, field 5 is on
I don't know
east.
what fields they are down there.
Yeah, there's just one.
There's just
Across
one.
the street
Right,
from where
it's field
everything
5.
else is.
Right. Honestly, the biggest issue you have down there is everything is as flat as a pancake. That's the issue that we have down there with trying to add those types of facilities. And it's in the floodplain. So then you have to build it according to flood standards, and those get very expensive very quickly.
So what you're saying, probably won't get one.
If you're going to get one, it's going to be on the north side of and on the west side of Center Street.
Got one there.
So
Okay.
we'll keep looking.
Anything else? Any other questions of Tobias? Anyone from the public have any questions of Tobias? All right, with that said, our next meeting, if I can find it. What is our next meeting? It'll be a work session on Monday, the 25th.
Yeah, it'll be Monday the 25th, and the next council meeting will be July 2nd.
Okay. Right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations and pending litigation.
Mayor, I would move that the Beatrice City Council go into closed session at 8:07 PM for the protection of public interest to discuss contract negotiations and strategy with respect to litigation which is imminent as evidenced by communication of a claim or threat of litigation to or by the public body.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Billsbach, that we go into executive session at 8:07 PM. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0.